Turning a Coke into a Red Delicious. Where yesterday I turned a Coke white, today I turned one red. This is how. 2 Cokes frozen overnight, 4 or 5 maraschino cherries, and a fourth of a cup of cherry juice, a teaspoon of vanilla, a tablespoon of sweetened condensed milk, a third of a cup of pineapple juice. Blended all together, the drink should be a memorable red. So much of this mixing is a little bit like rock climbing, in the extent some moves take a little bit of a leap of faith, where then the view is only appreciative by the one to do the mixing in this extent. For as with rock climbing, the view is different upon the route taken, and the jerk reactions that lead to the feeling that washes over the body as then one looks at where they are. A troublesome dilemma to think about sharing in regards to food when one either cooks or eats, where half of each is either. It makes me wonder how much of an experience is translated through food, from the growth of objects to their harvest, to then their refinement, to then their consumption. How much of each is lost, or is any of it? Is the experience of each manifest into an experience of each in a way, then in accordance with the way of the one in experience? Where then is true experience, if then everything is of the same experience through making cuts differently through conversation for the sake of conversation? Where conversation can't reveal the truth of experience if there is only one experience, or then there would be no conversation. Then how should one converse, having then had this conversation, believing then conversation, or this, where then how does one converse when conversation limits one's conversation for conversation? In this then to converse about is to then not converse about this, as then that gives conversation. Then not to converse is to speak then this. Then where is the conversation's master? As in the chefs, if each meal is prepped into being by its harvest by the seasons then by an accordance of time, then who wields time then to cut these then things? Then where is the power of what we call authority in this? Then where is delicacy when the mix is of this nature? Then are we all eating the same meals each day? Then who truly is the decider of then these meals we are having? In all having the same meal, are we all having the same meal? Then if conversation says no, is not our conversation of a meal? Then if so, are not those then that convene with us then partaking in the meal we have had? Then what are then these things, as before, then after, saying this? Then there is such a qualm with the decider of these things, in imagining then of a man, of men, of a vision of the world, where then is each of its own. Then looking at these designs unfold is then each one that looks to be of design, calling it of design when it is, and not when it's not, then as if design itself is an extension that unfolds from every design. Then what else unfolds from every design? Then what is the pathway of design? Then is what we call not design of design itself? Then does not all design come from design? Would we call what this design comes from as design? Or if it isn't recognized as design, would we call what comes from it as such? Can what we call design come from what we don't? Do we only recognize design based upon design we recognize? Though if of another design we would call what we don't design, as then we are of another design. What then is a world? Where then is one in their world or another's? Where then is one's world that then they could call a world theirs? There then does not the possession of a world lie, for then is it not of another world, not then theirs? Then what's the world? When there is no world of ownership, then each is of this, then no world is, as no one is. What then do these angles translate to? Where then they are between an image, though calling upon them, What then are the angles that form no image, but are of design, but call no image to mind? Is this an angle itself that can be placed before any mind, then itself residing as this conceptual angle, though its angle changes? Where its angle is intricate, but short enough to be called separate from an image, then alongside many angles, such as this. What then does it say? Or are we then seeing an understanding angle that stands beyond our understanding? Then we understand its angle and understanding without understanding it? Then what are these angles? Partially understood? Are they of then an angle that verges upon them no longer being an angle? Or is it an angle that is half read? Where then though are we seeing these angles without reading angles of any of these sorts? Then though is that angle of an angle?